You said your therapist or therapy helped you to identify this link between ADHD and depression. When did you find out you had ADHD? I got diagnosed 2 years ago.
My friend got diagnosed first, told me about it, changed his whole life. And then when he was describing some of the symptoms, I was like, huh. I was like, well, that's weird. That sounds a lot like me. And we're very different personality-wise.
Mhm.
And then I asked him, I said, I don't understand you. I've never noticed these things in you. And he was like, yeah, he was very good at hiding them. He was very good at masking them. And it hit home so much that it made me think I need to get diagnosed. I was like, let me go and see. I was like, it might not be, but let me go and find out. And then I remembered that when I was a kid, my school told my mom that I needed to go for a psychiatric evaluation because when I was really young, the teachers complained. They said I was just all over the place. And my mom took me to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist diagnosed me with ADHD, but back then it was called hyperactivity.
Mhm.
And my mom, the therapist was like, oh, your son has ADHD or is hyperactive. And so you must stay away from these foods and you must do this and you must do that. And you could give him treatment. And my mom was like, we'll pray for him. Let's keep it moving. She just didn't know. And she was like, no, this is not a thing. And then now as an adult went, wait a minute, was that what that was? And then I went through the real assessment, not like an online quiz, the one where you sit down, it's multiple visits, you do different types of tests, multimodal tests, and you go through it all. And then I learned about my ADHD. And I think that's another thing I'm a little worried about now in society. It's just like when we talk about therapy and AI and everything, we flatten these words. And so what then starts to happen is now I meet people everywhere. Everyone's got I've got ADHD. I've got ADHD. I can't watch a movie for more than 10 minutes. I've got ADHD.
I lost my keys.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you can be forgetful and not have ADHD. You can have a short attention span and not have ADHD. You can be many things and not have ADHD, right? But even when you have ADHD, you don't all have the same ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are inattentive. Some people are hyperactive. Some people have learned coping mechanisms. Some people haven't. In women and men, it presents differently at times. So I think we must also be careful. Now it's just become and then on TikTok, hey, how to deal with your ADHD? And it's like, wait. Let's, it's good that we're talking about these things, but let's not be quick to all have it and have the same version of it and all think that all of our treatments are exactly the same, etc. But so I think mine was, I think it's now 3-4 years ago.
This link between ADHD and depression. You're the first person I've interviewed. I've heard about this before, but you're the first person that I've spoken to who has said that their depression was linked to their ADHD.
Yeah. Can
you explain to me the link and how that sort of manifests?
So I didn't understand it, but as I understand ADHD now, what fundamentally happened in my brain, and I guess it'll happen to some people as well, is I would have an inability to choose where to place my focus. Right? One of the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would either be hyper-focused by something that I shouldn't, or I would have no focus for the thing that I should. So I could be having a conversation with you here, and let's say there was a car outside revving its engine. At some point, that's all I'd be able to think about. Even though you're speaking to me, that's all I'd be able to think about is who's revving this engine? Who's driving this car? What is going on out there? What kind of car is that? Sounds like a V6. Is that a truck? What are they? Is something wrong? No, and now you'd be talking, and then at the end of the sentence, I'll just hear the last 3 words you said, and then I'll try and put it all together and act like I was paying attention. But what my brain was also doing in that paying attention thing was it was focusing on a recurring thought or a recurring idea that I couldn't let go of, and that's sometimes where the depression would kick in, is that I would be perpetually stuck in a loop of either meaninglessness or what I like to call personally, it's like my zoom was stuck on my lens. And I think the way you see life is literally like a lens. I shouldn't have done that with my hands in a video. That's going to be...
We can Photoshop.
Yeah, just going to meme that. But anyway, I think of a lens, right? And what you're doing with a lens all the time when you're getting focused and when you're zooming is you're trying to place your focus on the object that you're trying to place it on. If you zoom out too wide, you can't see the object. If you zoom in too much, you also can't see the object. You've got to find the right zoom so that you know, okay, we're now looking at a cup. If you zoom in too much, you just go like, I'm looking at silver, I'm looking at a color. You zoom out too much, you can't even see that we're in this room. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at people, you're like, no, there's a cup, oh, I didn't see it. And so what was happening in my brain was I would get stuck in a zoom and I would just loop. So sometimes it would be me going, that was an interesting day at work. I go to work tomorrow. Then I go to work the next day. Then the next day. And then the next day. Then there's a weekend. But then I'm back at work. Then wait a minute. It's just weeks and weekends forever. It just keeps on going. And then one day you're like, you're 90 and then you're dead. And wait, why am I going to work tomorrow? What's the point of, what is happening here? This makes absolutely no sense. And then I'll just sit there. And I couldn't get that out of my head. I literally could not get that thought out of my head. And I would just sit there like, what is the point of this? What are we doing? Couldn't get it out of my head.
And how does that feel when you can't get that out of your head? What is the feeling?
For me, it felt like life was meaningless. Like the concept of it was meaningless. I was like, we're a blip. What are we doing here? All of this means nothing. All of this is pointless. You know?
Is that an exact example of something that would make you...
No, this is an exact example. This is something that would get stuck in my head because I didn't know with ADHD, like that I was hyper-focusing on this thing. So in the same way that I could hyper-focus on, learning about, I don't know, a discipline, industrial design or artificial intelligence, I would just, you know what I'm talking about with that. I'd get hyper-focused and then I'd learn everything about it and I'd read every book and I'd talk to every person I could and I would watch everything and all of a sudden, in like 3 months, you'd meet me and I'd go like, yep, I've read that book, I've read that book, I've read that book, and I'm obsessed with this thing. And then one day it just disappears. Now that's fine for like learning, let's say, but it would be terrible for an idea of like sadness or an idea of feeling like life is going nowhere or...
It can't be good for being famous. It's like the worst thing for being famous because you have constant like meaningless feedback and the brain is trying to interpret a lot of it.
Exactly.
If you get one of those things stuck in your head, gosh.
Yeah. And then mine also, like, it depends on, some people have it, some don't, but like pattern recognition, people with ADHD generally can be very good with pattern recognition.
Probably why they're good comedians.
And so what happens then, unfortunately, is you can also start to see the patterns in life that can make life seem meaningless. But once I got my ADHD diagnosis and once I understood what was happening, I really did start to see it as a lens. And anytime I find myself in those moments now, because I don't take medication, I took medication like once or twice. I was like, it didn't help me in my comedy. I actually need to be erratic and unfocused when I'm doing comedy. And I'm lucky that I live a life where I don't have to be in an office at a time and do a thing in a certain way. And, but in coping or in like learning how to deal with it, I've learned just about like that lens, and I'll talk to myself. I go, there's me and there's the observer. Like I'm the observer of my thoughts. I'm not the thoughts. And then I'll talk to myself. So I'll be like, man, you do this tomorrow. And then the next day, and then life is me. Then I go like, it is meaningless unless you zoom in. And then if you zoom in a little bit more, all of a sudden, wow, it's almost like the most meaningful thing. This conversation with this person is the most meaningful conversation you will ever have in your life. This is it. This is everything that it is. This hug that you're getting from your friend is the most important thing you will ever experience. This meal that you're having, just taste these ingredients. What is taste? Feel it on your taste buds, and like one of the tools they teach you, like with ADHD sometimes, when it makes you go into anxiety or depression, is to just notice things, practice being present, walk down the street and like look, like really look, and say out loud what you're seeing. And at first it's very stupid. That is a red door. That is a green roof. That is a pigeon sitting on the gutter. That is a gutter. That is a gray car that is driven by. And you'll be shocked at how just doing that gets your brain out of that loop. And then something's going to catch your eye or something will spark. And by the end of that walk, you won't be in the mood that you were in when you started that walk.
Did you ever feel hopeless when you spiraled into this sort of rumination? Was there ever a moment through this journey of understanding your depression that you felt hopeless?
I did and I didn't. This is going to sound really weird to you. I have this strange thing that'll happen to me sometimes in life where I feel like it's all meaningless and it's nothing and it's whatever. It's very, very random. Oftentimes, I've just learned sometimes it's fatigue. I've learned rules now for myself and for anyone out there, really, especially if you have ADHD. Before you go through anything or before you think about anything like intently and intensely when you're struggling, ask yourself a few simple questions. Have you slept? Have you eaten well? Like, have you eaten good food? Have you moved your body? And have you spent a little time breathing? If you answer yes to all of those questions, you can continue to pontificate about the meaning of life and everything that you're going through. If you have not, just fulfill all of them and then see if you're still feeling the same on the other side. And you'll be shocked how oftentimes you aren't. So the one thing that would happen to me, this is so ridiculous, I know. Sometimes when I'd be in that place, I'd feel a little hopeless, right? And I would think to myself, I hate this. This sucks. I don't know what I want to do with life anymore. Never like suicidal, but just like, I just don't know if this life thing, what is this? And then I would go, if it was going to end tomorrow, then what would I do like today then? I'd be like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on stage. I'm going to tell that joke that I've been terrified to tell. I'm just going to say it because I'm leaving anyway. Life is ending. It's all going away because it's all going to shit, right? Just go and say that. Go tell that joke. And I'll be like, what I should also do? I should also throw a party. I mean, life's ending anyways. Just throw one fuck off party that you just like go into it and I think of all the things, and I mean this genuinely. I think of all the things that I would do with like giant middle fingers on my way out, and the smile that it brings to my face, I can't explain to you, because every time it makes me realize that that's all I should be trying to do. Not in a way where I don't consider other people, but it's what I should be trying to do. And it's made me realize that at times, not everyone, but for me, and I think some people would probably feel this, sometimes what's happened in our lives, and I know I had this, is like you feel like you don't realize that you've stopped sort of like running, jumping, smiling, screaming. You've stopped being everything you can be, and you've started existing as one version of yourself. And sometimes just having the idea of just like, you know what I mean? Take all your clothes off and run through the streets screaming. And what would you say? And who would you say it to? And why would you say it? You'd be shocked at how that gives you an inkling of what you're not doing for yourself. Some people might be like, I'll tell my dad to go screw himself. I would say to you, oh, this is probably you realizing that you don't set boundaries with your dad and you don't communicate well. Maybe you don't tell your dad how you hurt your feelings. Or I'll go to work and yeah, maybe this is not the job for you. I'll party all night. Maybe you're not taking enough time to have fun. You'll be shocked at how like sometimes you're sort of not a tantrum, but it's just like your screw you choice is what you sort of should be doing in a responsible way. And that, I promise you now, in all those moments where I felt like it's hopeless, were the moments where I'd come back even more. I think to myself, maybe I should try aiming to get to that place. And therein, in a strange way, lies the meaning for me.